Welcome to Whining and Dining with Jim White, the show that is devoted to introducing you to the men and women who create the flavors you love. And we've got some of the best with us every single week. In fact, Chef Richard Chamberlain joins us on the show today. Hey, Richard.
Hey, Jim. Great to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'm going to share a really exciting 4th of July week that will really be fun for you and the family.
Can't wait to hear about it. We're going to talk all about Chamberlain's and all the great meals you've been serving for 25 years. Just delighted to have you with us on the show today. And she's back for more. Our best friend in the world of food and wine, Dotty Griffith. How are you?
This is a great 25 minutes coming up, I can tell.
Yeah. So you are Madam Guest Gourmet joining us on the program. And by the way, folks, through the coming weeks, you're going to be seeing a lot of familiar faces or maybe hearing some familiar voices or seeing people that you've read and admired from the world of food and wine being here, assuming this position as Guest Gourmet on Whining and Dining with Jim White. We are so pleased and honored to have you here as our inaugural Guest Gourmet. You have a job, you have a mission, you have a purpose here, which is to give us some news we can use about whining and dining.
Talking about food.
Yeah.
You and I have been doing for a long time.
I'm telling you. In dog years, it'd be 12 and a half. No.
At least.
But maybe a fun find in the world of restaurants or something good going on or cooking-wise?
I'm going to tout myself a little bit on this, and maybe we can get into it later, but making homemade tortillas is a really easy thing.
You can really do that if you're not in Mexico with your grandmother?
Absolutely. And a fresh flour tortilla smells every bit as wonderful as a fresh homemade biscuit. And the flavor of a fresh homemade corn tortilla, divine, just like corn out of the garden. And you can do it at home. It's really pretty easy.
And you have a book about this, and I want you to give the title and tell people how to get it, and then I promise you we're going to devote an entire segment to you.
Thank you.
None other than you.
It's the Ultimate Tortilla Press Cookbook, and it includes 125 recipes for homemade tortillas, as well as recipes that use tortillas.
Wow. So even I, who only make reservations for dinner?
You could.
Okay.
And you can get real fancy equipment or pretty basic equipment and still turn out great tortillas. And you can get this book just about anywhere. I'm having a signing at Half Price Books on June 8th.
Okay. I think we're past that time, but that's okay. Oh, you'll be having another
I had
one.
A signing on June 8th. Maybe I'll have some more coming up.
Yes, as Firesign Theater once said, good night, good afternoon, good evening. It's hard to tell when you're locked inside this shiny room with cameras. That's fine, Dottie. Thank you for being with us as our guest gourmet. And we got some good questions. We want to find out what's going on in the world of Chamberlain's.
Well, thank you, Jim. Celebrating our 25th year anniversary at the steakhouse is unbelievable.
And you look younger every day. You've still got those movie star, handsome, great looks after slaving over a hot stove for 25 years.
Oh, you're too nice. I was 15 when I opened the steakhouse.
Yeah.
So, do the math. I'm not that old. No, I'm just kidding.
So a big, exciting plans, probably a year-long celebration at Chamberlain Steak and Chop House.
Truly, celebrating all year. So thankful for 25 years, and I wish I could take the credit for it, but we've had, we have 100 employees between our steakhouse and our fish market grill and a small corporate office, and I owe it all to them, really. It's the team that comes in every day that just really love and care for our customers that come in, and also I have to thank people that literally have been dining with us for 25 years. That's what's amazing is when people literally that came in the first week you were open, and let me tell you, back then it was a tiny little shop. You were there.
Oh yeah.
Now this was the original Del Frisco's, was it not? Del Wamstad had this place before you did.
This was the second Del Frisco's.
Oh, okay.
So the original was on Lemon.
Yeah. All right. They did Bob's. Became Bob's. And
correct.
Then, yeah. All right.
And literally the same time Bob's opened on Lemon, Del Frisco's merged onto Spring Valley.
Okay.
We're going back a few years here.
So just folks, I mean, there's some steak heritage here at Chamberlain's, and you have carried on the legacy beautifully. Stellar reviews, amazing wine dinners, and people, as you indicated, keep coming back for more and more. How do you, steak is pretty basic. Steak and potatoes and vegetables. How do you keep it evolving and fresh and new? And
Well, it's again great inspirations from our team. We have a team of chefs that is so talented, and every week they come in and we challenge each other to, hey, what's new in the market this week that we need to bring in. Of course, summer for both the steakhouse and the fish market is all about beautiful seafood. We have such beautiful seafood coming not only from the Texas coast, but also Alaska and, of course, off the coast of Maine. We're very excited. Of course, the Copper River salmon season, the Columbia River halibut from Alaska pretty much runs till through September. So we have that usually on both menus every night. And then beef, one of our producers that's just an hour north of here, A-Bar Inn Ranch, does such a beautiful job with our local Wagyu Texas beef. Just beautiful marbling, great, really deep, rich taste. And then we just got to keep up with pairing great wine with it. We're always looking for wine values. We have actually a list of wines on each restaurant wine list that feature really, really great values every month for top wines. You wouldn't believe how what great quality we can get in at very, very great buys.
You mentioned Wagyu, which everybody knows is based, on the strain of cattle from Japan that's very highly marbled, very tender. Do you have to treat it or cook it a little differently? Are the techniques different than even just regular American prime?
Well, the technique is only different from the standpoint that we serve smaller portions because the cost of it is higher. And also because it is much richer, because there's more marbling, you really, it's easy to sit down to just a classic prime ribeye. And I don't know about you, but I can eat a 16-ounce ribeye with even, some compound porcini mushroom butter on top and, feel pretty good. But this Wagyu beef is really above that prime marbling. And so a smaller portion really works out better. We do 12 ounces on the ribeye and 10 ounces on the New York strip. So you're talking about a thinner cut of meat, hotter cooking, faster cooking, searing the outside to get the good caramelization, but not overcooking. That's really the primary difference.
And I'll spill the beans here a little bit, a little tease for what's coming up. We got over to Chamberlain's here in the last few days, and Richard's going to show us a great cooking technique with some of that fine Wagyu Texas prime beef. Look forward to that. Richard, you and Jeff Barker have had a great run together, great partners. Talk a little bit about how that came together and how it functions today.
Right. So my partner, Jeff Barker, has worked in some great restaurants. He opened Dakota's. He was part of the opening team for a number of restaurants around town with Phil and Janet Cobb, and they were highly successful. And so I had the steakhouse open for several years when Jeff just became available. And of course, we're the same age. We have the same age kids. Our wives are the same age. We have so much in common in our love for food and wine. And we've really complemented each other over the years. If you can imagine a perfect partnership in the restaurant business, hard to imagine because there's so many different opinions. People have their own way of doing things. And we always find common ground with ourselves so that we can just really keep getting better. It's all about, who has the best ideas in the business and then how do you implement those? And he's been a great, great partner for 23 years now in this.
I have a sense of how the division of labor works, but you want to kind of delineate that? I mean, I'm sure I'll let you talk a little bit about what your roles are individually.
Sure. Yeah. Many people think that we sort of divide the responsibilities up between front and back of the house because that's our normal positions. But and to some extent that's true. But really, we talk about everything together. If it's menu changes, we throw ideas back and forth. If it's front of the house changes in service style, if there's major wine list changes and wines by the glass changes, we really taste through and talk about those. And in the end, it's all about what's going to be best for the guest. How are we most going to impress the guest with these changes? And again, having somebody like Jeff to sit down and discuss these things and really decide the best thing for the guest every time is really great.
Well, it seems to work because the Fish Grill is my go-to location for any business lunch up in the Addison area, and the restaurant is the perfect destination, special occasion, business dinner place I think ever invented on the planet.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So whatever you're doing, keep on doing it. Now, as far as that 4th of July business that you touted at the beginning of the show, tell us more, oh sir.
I'd love to. One of my favorite times of the year is what's called Kaboom Town in Addison.
Yeah.
So it happens on July 3rd, not July 4th. Top 10 in the country rated fireworks show in the nation. Virtually every year you'll find it. USA Today rates them. They are right up there. And what's really great is when we opened the fish market 17 years ago, we had a hardhead party because it was a couple of months before we were due to open. So we just invited a bunch of our regulars and we passed hors d'oeuvres and had wine with the plan of afterwards going into the back parking lot and watching the fireworks together. So we had about 100 people. And it was so much fun that we decided to repeat it once we opened. And now we do a 3-course prefix menu. And so guests come, they sit down in the restaurant, they have a nice dinner, and they usually have some cocktails or wine. And then once they finish dinner, they get up, and we have several hundred chairs set up outside in our back parking lot. And literally the fireworks go off maybe 200 yards from where you're sitting at the end of the Addison airport area. And so they're literally going off right above your head. So let me tell you, people come out in droves for this. It is so much fun. They're so excited to be there and to enjoy in the festivities and great food.
You really know what Francis Key meant when he's the rocket's red glare, the bomb's bursting in air. Oh, there goes another one.
So are you planning any particularly new or interesting dishes for July 3rd for Kaboom?
Well, we always keep it light because we are in the throes of summer. It can be hot. So I know that the chefs are planning on, we have a new tuna poke dish that's going to be featured on that with a lot of citrus peel like lemon, lime, orange, and then, of course, sesame oil. And so that'll be a really nice light addition. We're going to do a couple of different styles of sushi as an appetizer choice. And then, of course, the entrees will feature beautiful cuts of steak. I think we lean towards filet mignon because, again, it's a leaner cut but still tender and beautiful. And then definitely have halibut on there from Alaska, lots of desserts. And then we always have some specialty drinks. We do on the salad, we just talked about this the other day, a red, white, and blue
I love it.
wedge salad.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. So blue cheese dressing, red cherry tomatoes and heirloom teardrop tomatoes, and the whole thing, shaved onion, and yeah.
How do folks make a reservation for the dinner, Richard?
Well, they can go to our website, chamberlainsrestaurants.com or chamberlainseafood.com for Chamberlain's Fish Market Grill, or they can call the restaurant, directly. But
people still phone the restaurant?
Believe it or not, yeah, it works. The phones actually work, yeah. Or you can go to Open Table, of course, and find Chamberlain's Fish Market Grill. So
that's great. July 3rd.
Yes.
For the Kaboom Town celebration. It's
correct.
Now, we want to talk about your sterling background, your resumes, which is astounding, but I kind of want to set the stage because looking back where you are now with the great success over 25 years, it might have gone a different way back when you were a kid, what you might call humble beginnings. But you made one very important decision in high school, I think, when you were given a choice of future farmers of America or future homemakers of America.
That's
Tell us
exactly
that
right.
story.
Wow, I can remember it like it was yesterday, and it was a time of I was a teenager, and I was kind of mad at my parents for moving me from the city to the country at the time. We went from living in Dallas to a very small suburb of about 420 people or something. And so, I was doing everything to kind of make them mad.
So, you were doing your job as a teenager.
Yeah.
But the truth is I actually had a crush on a girl, and I thought, well, one chance to meet her would be in this FHA class, and I'd rather be with the girls and the food than the guys with the cows, even though my grandfather was a rancher. But I was in a strange mood at the time. So I took this class, and the teacher was much smarter than I was. She knew exactly how to handle it. And so I had the class once a week, and the first day was really fun. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm with all the girls. The second week I come in, she takes me to a modular building next door with ingredients and a recipe. She said, I'll be back in 45 minutes. I need you to have this done. I'll never forget, it was corn fritters. Delicious. I mean, I love making those things. Well, every week that I came back, she had another recipe for me to make. And so I really got into cooking, and I was into sports. I played football and basketball. And when I get off practice, I'd go home and I'd practice on the family. I'd take those recipes and recreate them for the family. And my mother was the one that really encouraged me. She said, Richard, you have a real gift, and I really think you should go to culinary school. Well, there was only a couple in the country at the time.
That was a time when there weren't that many culinary schools.
Not many. And El Centro just had launched a couple of years before, so it was brand new. And so that was really my avenue into cooking. And then that got me the job at the mansion on Turtle Creek, and really launched my career working with
let's tell that story, because number one, I mean, the chutzpah that a graduate of the of El Centro, as wonderful as I think the program is, even then the mansion on Turtle Creek was gaining a worldwide reputation, and you walked up and got a job there.
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
Well, I'll tell you how it happened. A friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, who, unfortunately is now deceased, Ricky Tillman, Tillman's Corner founder, one of my very best friends of all times. He was working at the mansion. He had gotten on, working one of the stations, and he called me up and he said, hey, somebody just got fired off the grill. And my only experience really in cooking was I had grilled steaks at Trail Dust Steakhouse. That was a job that I got when I first came to Dallas. I mean, they cut off the
lost a tie
ties.
there one time.
Yeah, right. Probably a really ugly Christmas tie. Yeah, that's what everybody wore. But I like to when I talk to apprentices, I like to tell them, all cooking experience is good because it teaches you something. And so working at the Trail Dust, we had grills that were 15 feet long, and there were 3 cooks, and we served 1,000 people a night on weekends. I had to cook a perfect steak for 350 people every weekend night and weeknight, and so I knew how to cook filet mignon and ribeye and porterhouse and all those things. They needed a grill chef at the mansion, and when Ricky said, "Hey, all you have to do is grill a steak," he lied to me. He didn't tell me there was rack of lamb and escargot and hollandaise and béarnaise and all this stuff.
Not doing those at Trail Dust.
So I went in and interviewed with the French chef. His name was Christian Chemin, and a real talented guy, but it's like being in the military also. And he, our interview was sign language because he just spoke a few words of English right off the boat, and I didn't speak any French. But he was convinced that because I was in culinary school and I could cook a steak, that I was the right man for the job. And man, gosh, I was way over my head. Wow. Let me tell you. But
now Dean was there then, but wasn't the executive chef. It was not, I guess, Agnew's when you were his sous chef. That started the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Right. Dean and I worked together at the mansion. He was the saucier when I came in as the grill chef. So he was at the real important end of the line, and I was at the other end. But Dean was the kind of guy that always took a management position, whether he was or not. And he took me under his wing, and he really showed me the right way to do things. Later, he became the sous chef at the mansion. And then later, like you said, he was offered a job to open Agnew's restaurant out in Adelstein Plaza across from Prestonwood and all that.
Wonderful.
Oh, it was so great. I mean, it was just a bunch of young guys that loved to cook, and we came in and we poured our hearts into the food every day and bought beautiful product and had fun together and lived life together. And entered chili cook-offs and just really had a lot of fun.
I mean, that was the beginning of Dallas as a food town. It was really when chefs like you and Dean and Stephen Piles made Dallas a place to be reckoned with as far as food.
It really was, and again, it was just guys that were really having fun. We had learned really good techniques working, in these French restaurants, and now we can apply it. And I'll never forget, just making a beurre blanc, and we had some beautiful Dover sole that we had gotten in fresh from France. And Dean said, "Hey, throw that beurre blanc in the blender. Let's add some cilantro and lime and see how it does." And of course, that's where Southwest
Southwestern cuisine.
And we just, we were experimenting like that every night. It was a ever-changing menu, and we were buying pheasants from local pheasant raiser, and again, buying the most beautiful products that money could buy, and just it was such a beautiful time.
And then how did you get to L.A.? Because after that, the Bel Air came up, and then you were, I guess, Wolfgang Puck was consulting then. What was? Did you get to have one-on-one with the chef then, or?
Yeah, that was really neat. So Joe Venezia, who was one of our sous chefs at the mansion, had gone out, had been hired as the executive chef at the Bel Air about the time that I was leaving Agnew's, and he called me up and said, "Hey, you want to come to L.A.?" Well, I was 23 at the time. I mean, who would say no to that? So, I moved out there, packed up my little Honda Accord with everything I had and drove out and discovered, just amazing California cuisine. Talk about fresh products. I mean, the most beautiful products in the country, at the time.
Yeah.
And Wolfgang Puck was a consultant, so he would stop by from time to time and introduce new recipes to us. Joe Venezia was an incredible technician, and the products again we were getting in there was really incredible. And then just eating around town, at the time Spago was putting out beautiful food, so we could hang out in their kitchen. Chinois, had opened up a couple of years before. Oh my gosh,
Was that just
whole fried catfish with ginger and
stuff that seems kind of mundane now
I
was
know.
just revolutionary at the
but
time.
it's still, those flavors just still, they stick in your mind like it was yesterday. It was really incredible time.
And then a great stint in Aspen at Little Nell, and time is kind of running low on us here, but I want to know how you got back to Dallas. What brought you back to Dallas?
Right. So, my wife and I were newlyweds. We opened the Little Nell Hotel in Aspen.
Okay, so you had met Lisa before, and she was in Aspen with you.
Right. We moved there, and then our daughter Tori was born there, and it was I was in my third year at the Little Nell. Amazing place, great place to work. Everybody that we work with the Aspen Skiing Company they were so wonderful. The restaurant was highly successful, but I had to make a big decision for my family at the time, and that was: am I going to continue to be a chef in a hotel for most of my life, or am I going to make a move now and move back to Dallas and try to launch a restaurant? And I went to Lisa and she said, "Well, how are we going to do this? We don't have any money or anything." I said, "Well, I don't know. Let's just go try." And as you know, it all came together very quickly, and we opened Chamberlain Steak and Chop House. And it wasn't like we opened up and it was like super busy. I mean, we had to earn every customer back then, and it was a tough transition too. It was going from cooking really high-end food to more basic food. But I knew steak was something that people would always love in Texas, and so it was a very, very good business decision from a restaurant standpoint.
That's a wonderful story, and we're going to show some examples of just how beautifully that comes off, even if you do it simply, because I mentioned at the top of the show that we had a chance to stop by Chamberlain's, and he's got this magical cooking utensil called a cast iron skillet.
Heirloom cookware.
Yes.
A wonderful, great skillet that Grandma had.
Yep.
Will last forever. Cast iron.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love cast iron.
And you're going to show us how to use it to maybe get a whole meal together with fish, with steak, and everything else going on.
That's exactly right. You know, cooking can be so simple, and often we think that we need real expensive pots and pans, and you know, infrared broilers here in my restaurant that cost $30,000-$40,000. This cast iron skillet here cost about $60 or $70. We're gonna do pretty much anything in here that we can do in that, and make it, and just really show you how easy cooking can be.
And timing is so important. So this is something to really pay attention to as Chef Richard takes over.
That's right. So the timing is really key. We're cooking 3 items, really all in this same pan. A locally raised Wagyu ribeye from A-Bar Inn Ranch, and then we have a piece of sea bass that's just beautiful, and these extra dry, fresh shucked sea scallops. Now, we want this to all be done at the same time, and many people are challenged by, you know, how do I cook all this stuff so that it's hot, it's fresh, it's not overcooked, but it all comes out at the same time so we can eat it together. Well, first you have to determine what's going to take the longest to cook. In this case, the ribeye is definitely going to take the longest. We're looking for a nice, you know, medium rare ribeye, so we'll start with just some generous amount of sea salt on the outside of this beef. And again, you want to, this is a pretty thick piece of meat, so we want to get a generous amount. This is fresh ground black pepper, and we want, again, a nice generous amount of that black pepper on the outside. This is going to add a lot of flavor. All right, so the cast iron skillet is heated to about medium-high heat. And all we need is just a little oil in the bottom for lubrication. We're going to get some great smoking off of that, and then we're going to put the beef right in there on that side of the pan, and we're going to let it just go on medium-high heat. Now, again, a lot of people struggle with the fact that they think that they have to constantly turn this meat and move it around the pan. I say leave it alone. Let it cook, let it brown, let it get that beautiful crust on the outside that we do with our real expensive equipment here in the restaurant. Okay, so the second item that we're going to put in the pan just about now will be the sea bass, because it's the kind of the second longest cooking piece of meat. Sea salt, a little fresh ground black pepper. This is going to go right over here in this little area to, again, good caramelization. I can add just a touch more oil to that to make sure it doesn't stick. But again, sea bass really benefits from good browning on the outside. And this hot cast iron skillet is going to cook it perfectly. Okay, so we've allowed the steak and the sea bass to brown for 2 or 3 minutes on this side. Now we're going to turn it and see how beautiful of a crust we have. Now look at that. It's not charred, it's not black, but it's got a deep, crusty brown, and that's what we're looking for. Let's check this sea bass out now and see how it looks. Once again, look at the nice golden brown crust that sea bass has. Just what we look for. Now, just about the time you turn those proteins over, it's time to put in the scallops. We're going to season the scallops just with sea salt. Really don't need any pepper because these have this natural sweetness that we want to keep that natural taste. Again, a little touch of oil right in the place that you're going to cook them, and in goes those scallops. These you want to cook to a nice medium rare for a perfect scallop because they have such a nice natural sweetness. If we overcook the scallop, it's going to become tough. It's going to lose all that natural sweet taste. And so the cooking time is real important here. Okay, so our scallops have been cooking now for about 3 minutes on this side. Let's turn them and see how nice and brown they are. Yeah, look at that. So good golden crusty brown on the outside of that scallop. That's really what's really going to develop the flavor. Now the key here is not to overcook. Now that we've gotten browning on one side, we've achieved really our #1 goal. Now about a minute to a minute and a half on the second side, we'll pull it out. We have to remember that the heat from the scallop that it has inside of it now will actually continue cooking after we take it off. It's true of the sea bass and the beautiful ribeye. But let's go ahead, and this ribeye should be a perfect medium rare now. I can see by can touch. On this side, it's kind of closer to medium rare. We've got a little rareness in that real thick part, but it's going to be perfect. Once we allow it to rest for a couple of minutes, this sea bass, look at the browning on that now. Oh, just a beautiful golden brown on that. And then finally, those luscious sea scallops from off the coast of Maine right here. The best eating in the world.
Perfect dinner on the table, a little side dish or two, maybe a nice green vegetable. Richard, a lot of people try to recreate what you do in your infrared broilers by browning the steak in the skillet and then putting it in a high heat oven. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, that's a great technique. Searing in a pan like this, and then especially if you have a really thick steak, feel free to finish it if you want it, cook more to medium or medium well. In a convection oven at maybe 375 for an additional 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and that will help cook it. But always remember to let that steak rest after it comes out of the oven, okay? Because all the juices have been forced to the center with that high heat. We want them to come back into the outside of the protein of that steak, so we have a real eaten and doneness. So it's good to let this rest for at least 3 to 5 minutes after it comes off.
Oh, I can't wait to try that because Vicky's grandmother's cast iron skillet is there, and I pull it out from time to time. Richard gave me a tip on maybe cooking on the side burner outside so we don't smoke up the kitchen when we use that at home. So, Richard, you are just absolutely amazing. Thank you. Keep up. Do you think it's 25 more years of Chamberlain's, even if you're not in the back of the house?
Well, I hope so.
You may want to be.
I'm having fun still.
Okay. Well, you're a young guy. You can do 25 more. And our best to Lisa, your lovely wife. And congratulations. I know Stephen is out of SMU now, and congratulate to him.
Thank you.
And to Tori, the young bride, and so forth.
Thank you.
What a great family.
Thank you very much. I'm a blessed man for sure.
And Dotty, thank you for being our guest gourmet.
Fun.
And we're going to talk about your tortilla press cookbook along in this series. So it'll be floating out there in the digisphere on the internet here at vocalnow.com. You're delightful. Thank you for being here. You're delightful. Thank you for being here. Remember, if anybody asks you what you're making for dinner, tell them reservations. Should be Chamberlain's.